Your fellow vice presidential hopefuls, Elise
Sure.
Stefanik and JD Vance, have both said that they would not have certified Joe Biden's electoral college victory if they had been vice president on January 6, 2021, if they had been in Mike Pence's place. Would you have?
I'm not going to answer hypothetical questions, number one, and I didn't know that I was a vice president hopeful. Thank you very much, Jake, for letting me know where I am on the scale. I'll simply say this, that having 4 more years of President Donald Trump means that we'll have low inflation, low crime, we'll have record low unemployment.
That's not what it means at all, and we'll return to all of that. We'll do a little bit of fact checking in just a minute, but first of all, I didn't know that I was trying to be VP or whatever. I almost buy it with Tim Scott. He seems kind of disconnected from what's going on around him. But the idea that Jake Tapper just broke news to him that he's trying to be VP is so disingenuous, utterly disingenuous. But not as disingenuous as I don't answer hypotheticals. Was that a hypothetical? I mean, it happened. It's in the past. Generally, hypotheticals dwell in the future. They haven't happened yet. That one actually happened. And I'm not saying that there aren't elements that are hypothetical, but you know that legally he couldn't just not certify the election. You know that that's the case, right? By the way, he's a senator. I know it's very easy to forget Tim Scott got elected into office. He was one of the people who conceivably could have been murdered by that mob. And now all of a sudden, it's hypothetical, but who's to say? Well, you're to say. You're to say. You know he couldn't have decertified it. You know what happened on that day. You know everything that happened after that day. And to you, it's just, I don't know. I mean, I'm not asking you who would win in a fight like Superman or 100 T-Rexes or whatever. This is very grounded. You could give an answer about this, but to become VP, he has to try to keep his reputation a little bit clean. And so that means not speaking honestly, not speaking directly in any case. We're gonna see if we can get a little bit more clarity on what he thinks about another big issue having to do with the guy who he definitely wants to be the running mate for, and that is Donald Trump and the massive legal bills that he has. Take a look at this.
When it comes to former President Trump, Senator Scott, do you believe the RNC, the Republican National Committee, should be involved in paying his legal expenses, which are mounting?
I can only tell you that without any question, when you look at the 2-tier justice system that we have that I just reinforced, I think it's important for us to note that without any question, the American people are very concerned about how that would impact their lives. Their issues are very clear, by the way. The American people are more focused on their future than Donald Trump's past. What they're more focused on is making sure that our southern border is secured.
Well, then in that case, you'd think they'd be a little bit angry about the fact that Donald Trump almost single-handedly tanked the border security deal. You'd think that maybe they'd be angry about that. And also, I love that their defense is always they're more interested in the future than Donald Trump's past. Yeah, but you guys have been saying that for every insane thing, every crazy statement, every crime that he's committed. You keep saying that. Can I be concerned about the next one that he does? Because there's more coming. You can't just write off literally everything. Okay, then what are you worried about Hunter Biden and Burisma or whatever? That is, after all, in the past. I think the American people are more interested in Biden's future than Hunter Biden's past. Does that convince anyone of anything? I understand when you see Tim Scott talk like that. It's a direct question. Should the RNC pay for Donald Trump's legal fees? And he just says, well, the only thing I know is blah, blah talking point. This is why people hate politicians so much. This is why, unfortunately, you get a point where they look at someone like Trump and they're deluded into thinking that he's telling it like it is. He isn't, he's lying. But in comparison to a Tim Scott, it's not as obvious that he has no interest in being honest about anything that he believes. But anyway, we're gonna move on to some I guess maybe competition to Tim Scott, which is, let's see him on Nikki Haley. Obviously, Donald Trump has been upping his rhetoric against Nikki Haley. Here is Tim Scott participating in that.
He says things like
Yes.
she may not be eligible to run, suggesting she wasn't born in the US, which she was. He calls her bird brain. He made comments about her husband being on military deployment as if he was trying to get away from her. Where does he think her supporters will go if he continues to attack her like that?
Well, there's no doubt that the race has gotten kind of challenging without any question. Listen, the rhetoric coming out of the Haley camp, talking about people's age. We see the Haley camp in the family referring to me as Judas Iscariot. We're hearing a lot of chatter out of the Haley camp, not only just matching the rhetoric from the Trump side, but actually going further.
Tim Scott is absolute garbage. He's garbage. He's a dumbass. He's a hypocrite. I don't care about the Judas Iscariot stuff, but let me pretend I'm religious. He's Judas too. I don't know, whatever principles or values he used to have, like so many politicians before him, they have all been put to the side, utterly forgotten. They're covered in dust because he needs Donald Trump to support him. He had nothing to say about any of those utterly unacceptable attacks that Donald Trump has lobbed at Nikki Haley. Fundamentally racist and misogynistic attacks. Tim Scott, who has been the target of racist attacks, I am sure, 100 times in his career, because America is chock full of racists. Suddenly, who cares? Because in this case, the racist is the guy who I want to be the VP for. I want that cherished position where maybe I'll be the guy who he has a mob trying to assassinate someday. And Nikki Haley, you can say that she was unfair with the age stuff or something. She hasn't said anything about him like Donald Trump has. Tim Scott knows that. He's being utterly fake, utterly false. If he is remembered at all by history, it should be for being one of the biggest hypocrites of the modern Republican Party. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.